2025 has been the kind of year that reminds you that technology isn't just a tool anymore, right? It's everything. It's a battlefield, it's an arbitrator, it's a diplomat, it's a creator, it's a disruptor. Off late, I think it's also a therapist.
Russians in Ukraine, they were able to use radio signals to jam the communication between drone and the controller, right? So they'll just fall off the sky, and it is a good way of kind of stopping drone attack. So what these guys have developed, Ukrainians also have a kind of drones that are tethered to a fiber optic cable like a kite. So you are like connected, wired, and the only thing is limit is the range. So they go to about it's not bad, 50 kilometers. Like you had your home system, right? Tethered, old tech with very new application. So that I found interesting.
I don't know if you follow this NOTAM alerts that the government gives out for missile testing in the Indian Ocean. So now what the Indian government has started doing is that just to, I think, harass the Chinese, they keep on putting out NOTAM signals and then they cancel them. So they say that we are going to test missiles in the Indian Ocean. So the Chinese start sending spy ships to monitor and then they cancel it. So wasting Chinese fuel is the new Indian pastime.
But Nilesh, I was just reading up and saying that in the next couple of years, 1 in 3 creator is going to clone himself using AI. And then that AI becomes a 24/7 response mechanism for the creator. So
that is why I try to remain so random. Very difficult to clone. Just totally unpredictable. You can just say anything, anytime.
Totally.
Have you heard of Farah and her cook Dilip?
I have not seen, but I've heard because the shots keep coming in YouTube.
Yeah, that is just also tells me what you are looking at these days. But the point is, so this guy is, so you have to admire Farah for her. She very openly says that she's earning much more on YouTube than she ever earned in terms of per unit.
As a wrap up for 25, I think 3 big things that happened. 2 very serious, 1 not so serious shift that is coming in the world, and that's going to take us into a better space with 2026. I hope 2026 sees less wars, sees less chaos.
Yes, and in case you all missed it, we are very color coordinated.
Wish you all a very, very happy New Year.
So wish all of you a great end to 2025, and hopefully 2026 will be much, much better.
Welcome back to 3 Techies Banter, where we decode madness, magic, math, tech, everything so that you don't have to do it. And today, of course, it's the grand finale. 2025 has been the kind of year that reminds you that technology isn't just a tool anymore, right? It's everything. It's a battlefield, it's an arbitrator, it's a diplomat, it's a creator, it's a disruptor. And off late, I think it's also a therapist. So kind of buckle up, because what we're going to do is we're going to dive into 3 big things or tectonic shifts as we saw in 2025 for this year, right? We'll talk about wars, which of course has taken up a lot of our time, effort, energies, etc. We'll talk about trade wars, if I can call them a war, or just trade. Let's call it the trade. And then on a lighter note, we'll talk about the creator economy, because that's another game-changing thing. So from drones rewriting geopolitics to AI turning creators into micro-multinationals, if I may call them that, considering they have like an economy with $835 billion or $1 million, $835 million, the top 50 guys types, to trade wars, right? So let's just kind of figure out it's not a classic tech wrap, but we're going to talk about these three things with all things tech within them. So I thought that's what we do in our year-end episode. Nilesh, are you on board with that?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so then let's jump into the first one, which is actually taken up the maximum time for all of us, and which is wars. Nilesh, you want to pick up something on the wars bit, and then we'll jump into the conversation around tech and wars and stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. I think before I even take up wars, I think just a day before yesterday, finally got an award for stopping so many wars. You know, right? He couldn't get Nobel Peace Award, but finally FIFA gave him a
award.
FIFA Peace Award. I don't know what FIFA has got to do with peace, but finally, yes, his war-ending efforts were recognized by FIFA. So,
Chalo, at least he'll stop fighting for Nobel Peace Prize.
oh yeah, he was so happy. He was smiling like he was so glad to get a peace award, though it is from FIFA. So who cares? But so
I could arrange one
think,
from my building society also if he wants. I mean, if that helps.
Oh, I'm sure he'll love it. You know, absolutely.
As long as it came from India and it recognized India, Pakistan mein uska role, he'll be fine.
He'll be fine. Absolutely. So coming back to wars, I think 2025 saw a lot of wars. I mean, countries which we had never heard of getting into a war got into a war, like Thailand and Cambodia, which was like quite strange for me. I mean, in that part, war happening. So 2025 has been a very interesting, strange year. Multiple wars entertaining the world literally every day or every hour. And with chaos and war comes innovation. I mean, everyone has recognized that. And a lot of innovation happened in the technology space in stuff related to wars, right? And we'll talk about it. I'll talk about a couple of them before you guys jump in. I think the ones which were really remarkable innovations happening, one of them is drones, obviously. We have all, I mean, even India-Pakistan war, and we'll talk more in depth on drones. I'll just name a few first and then get the conversation going. Loitering munition, right? As we heard in Ops Sindoor. Drones have come of age and Ukraine held Russia just because of drone technology. To the extent that people are calling Zelensky the salesman of drones and going around the world because Ukrainian drones are really good. I mean, they really did a great job of that. So a couple of very interesting things which I read in drone technology. I mean, everyone knows what drone is. Two things kind of stood out for me. One was, Russians in Ukraine, they were able to use radio signals to jam the communication between drone and the controller, right? So they'll just fall off the sky, and it is a good way of kind of stopping drone attack. So what these guys have developed, Ukrainians also have a kind of drones that are tethered to a fiber optic cable like a kite. So you are like connected, wired, and the only thing is limit is the range. So they go to about, it's not bad, 50 kilometers, right? Where you can't create like, so like a kite, the drone goes tethered to a fiber optic cable. And now you cannot break the connection at all, right? So that was a very, very old tech. Like you had your home system, right? Tethered. Old tech with very new application. So that I found interesting. The second thing in drone which I found interesting, I mean, something that makes sense, is creating swarms of drones. So there is a Romanian company, Swamios. So they create a swarm of drones, and this is more for kind of command control, right? Because that will create a kind of a swarm and a network, and you are getting a lot of data, and it helps in situational awareness and rapid decision making. So while we all know munitions, loitering munitions and missiles, these two were something interesting that I came across. And this is new, 2024, 25.
So, in fact, I think what wars do, I think, is also you kind of think of it like Formula One to auto industry, like that kind of accelerates technology development for whatever end it might be, and then they kind of move into civilian life. In fact, while we were discussing wars, I kind of came across against these. There are these very interesting articles that people publish about what changed the war for the Allies in World War II. Okay. And one of the things, I mean, while there are lots of tiny things, one of the things was how did they manage logistics? In the sense, the big issue for American trucks is that, as the Allied front was moving towards Germany, you have to keep the forward lines supplied, like that logistics will kind of win or lose wars because if you can't feed the army, then you can't, move the army. And they used to have a lot of losses because obviously you have a convoy and then they have great targets and all. So, long story short, there was a guy in the American side who was a career trucker. Okay. And he came up on this revolutionary idea at that time was don't bunch the trucks. So you have irregular schedules and irregular convoy sizes and completely random. So what in effect happens is that for an aircraft to come and bomb one truck or two trucks is not economical, not fuel efficient, and as a result, they started getting much more completions happening. So which is kind of a completely counterintuitive, just to your tethered point, right? Like you would think that bunched together, more security in a convoy would be good, but war taught them that it just doesn't work like that. In war, random is better. So I mean, and I think to the point that war kind of teaches you all kinds of crazy things. Like in the case of India, I know that the Kargil war, I think, taught us that we needed high altitude guns, high caliber, low weight, which can be airlifted by choppers. So I mean, there is and tons of stuff like that. And I think one of the side points is that, I mean, I don't know if you follow this NOTAM alerts that the government gives out for missile testing in the Indian Ocean. So now what the Indian government has started doing is that just to, I think, harass the Chinese, they keep on putting out NOTAM signals and then they cancel them. So they say that we are going to test missiles in the Indian Ocean. So the Chinese start sending spy ships to monitor and then they cancel it. So wasting Chinese fuel is the new Indian pastime.
Well, I don't know about wasting fuel being the new pastime, but a couple of things that I found interesting is that a lot of AI was used in decisions, right? Which is fascinating because otherwise we're talking about all the issues of AI. But in war, we've used so much of AI to take so many decisions, right? So you've got assisted all the time using AI. So while we may talk about hallucinations and all of that, there is AI getting used in a lot of tactical decisions and battlefield decisions, which I thought was very, very fascinating because we are constantly talking about AI and ethics, AI's ability to take decisions, etc. But the fact that it can process data and give you data at a speed that allows you to take all these kind of decisions. I thought that was one thing that I really found fascinating. The other thing that I found fascinating was the fact that a lot of the war disruptions really came, if you think about it, and when you listen to people talk about analysis, disruptions came from tracking, hacking, tracing, manipulating logistics data, all of that. Everything which is a tech involvement, right? So to me, that was another fascinating thing that if you can now, and therefore they also talk now about um, a special internet, right, which is the military internet, which is completely different from the internet that creators, for example, use because you need so much more protection, so much more privacy. It is, so much more. I don't know what the you guys need to help me with the technical term on it, but you really need to build an internet which is unhackable in that sense by other parties, right? So that I thought was again very, very interesting. And I don't know if blockchain has a role to play in that, Nilesh, or not, but unhackable, and I don't know if quantum computing will be required in the future or not, but unhackable military internet is another thing that I thought was very fascinating when you think about wars in that sense.
So in fact,
And
when we talked about it last time about in space and all that, so that's also the reason why you need self-reliance in a lot of things. And I think from an Indian perspective, we probably didn't have the uh, resources or the wherewithal to do it earlier on. But even simple things like GPS, right? I mean, ultimately it is it's an American system. So, you need to be self-reliant on that. If you start, and of course now everybody's a self-professed defense expert also. So everybody's talking about, but the fact that, why India is fighting so hard for complete technology transfer and source code control of most of the uh, munitions they buy, including the fighter aircraft, which is why this whole protracted conversation with the Su-57s and what's going, because the ability to change, modify, uh, and make better is all dependent on the ability to amount of control you have. And of course, I don't know how far this is true or if it's conspiracy theory, but apparently the F-35s and the F-22s have kill switches, which the American, first of all, you get a lower version when the Americans send it to you, and then they have the ability to lock it out whenever they want. So if you are fighting against a NATO country, then they can just, oops, off you go. so true, untrue, but people are very worried about the fact that, you don't control it. So and you can't modify. And in fact, we are even using cargo aircraft, which, has American ground stuff. So there is hardly any control. So I think the other side of this is also is that while conflict is not great, it kind of then exposes or acquaints you with the limitations you currently face and what you need to plug. And they're usually not big fancy things. It could just be small arms, it could be supply lines, it could be just better parachutes for dropping or whatever, stuff like that.
and very quickly on you're absolutely right. I think that when you stretch the system, right, kind of you need to innovate. It's like innovating at the limits, right, at the edges. And on just to add something, and while with Ops Sindoor, we all got to know about our missile, so many capabilities, right? But since you mentioned Sheetal, AI was used a lot.
Correct.
And primarily it was used in predictive analytics and weather forecasting. And there is something called Anuman 2.0. I didn't know about it. So which helps in these capabilities of control and command. And that is how the weather forecast and how the attack should happen. So AI was used for a lot of predictive analysis.
Yeah.
So Nilesh, if you remember, I mean, not that we should take credit for any of this, but you and I had gone for that Air Force conference where we had talked about that. I mean, I think maybe they were already doing it, but we had just gone to give a talk about how AI and blockchain can be used in logistics management of the Indian Air Force. And I don't think that is what kicked it all off, but I mean, so that was our little contribution to the AI.
Correct. The small bits that you had.
Absolutely.
So that's really a lot on the war that we've seen and technology within war. But let's also talk about the other war, right? Which has been started and has been... Apologies. So let's even talk about the other piece, right? Where we've heard everything from 125% to 350% as tariffs coming to India and things like that. And it's just created so much disruption all around the world. And again, tech has played such a large role in tariff management, right? So people have started using LLMs to figure out what kind of tariffs and things like that. They call it the tariff GPT, I think, on the aside. But there are so many things that technology has done to help aid at least the conversations on trade wars. And maybe that's what we should jump into next, the whole bit of trade wars.
So, this, when I started reading up on trade wars, one is, of course, this whole direct tariff or a direct sanction. But I also came across this book called Choke Points. I think it's written by a gentleman called Edward Fishman. So it talks about all the other levers countries, and primarily, obviously, the large countries, which is the US, have to influence trade. Just as an example, the internet itself. I mean, they can say yes or no to termination of undersea cables. So they were building a cable from Los Angeles to Hong Kong. They said no, it should terminate in Taiwan because Hong Kong is near China. Then there are laws in the US. So, like, just as an example, if this watch was made in India, but there was some machinery that was US made that went into building this can be legislated in the US court. So I can be sued for this watch in a US court. And there are tons of things like this which can get activated or deactivated, which have an influence on global trade. So it's Corrupt Practices Act, investments. And I have this, if you've seen this movie, Woman in Gold, so there's this lady who's fighting for this painting, which is her family's painting in Austria. And she can't fight the government till the time she figure out that there was a replica of that, like a cheap fake being sold at an American store. The moment that happens, if you're making commercial enterprise out of anything anywhere in the world and it's sold in the store, so the Austrian government could be sued in an American court, which kind of just tells you that how trade works very strangely, different from the trade government to government, but there are lots of levers within it, secondary, tertiary sanctions which can be activated to geopolitically influence people. It's very strange, actually.
No, and the biggest problem that has come out of this trade tariffs is exactly what you mentioned: the complete lack of transparency now. It is already complex, and there were norms that were defined by World Economic Forum, and there were bodies which were sitting on top of it and defining those regulations and laws and how they should be applied, so that there is transparency. And because of these new trials, it is no longer transparent at all, and it only benefits, obviously, some way it benefits. The fact is, no one knows. I mean, the American companies don't know. There was a video I saw, CEO of Ford. Everyone is utterly confused, right? Because they manufacture their cars in Mexico and Canada and US. Then they get parts from China, like you mentioned, right? Your watch. I mean, the supply chains, global supply chains are so complex. And now you have created differential tariffs. So literally every part will have to be valued separately, right? So it has been like a hype, like wars, trade and tariffs has created havoc.
So in fact, Dinesh, the thing is that it is also driving other countries to find other solutions outside the current framework. I mean, you can take the payment system, you can take supply chains. Everybody is renegotiating how supply chains are going to work. And in fact, I was looking at this whole Putin-Modi summit, and while whatever they discussed, but a lot of it was got to do with trade routes. That how can goods be moved from India to Russia and back without going through NATO countries? Then giving Russia access to dry, like warm water access and stuff. So I think we are also pushing the world to, just like wars, to find new solutions which nobody was looking for earlier. I mean, everybody thought, oh, great, we'll go through the Suez Canal, we'll go through the Malacca Strait, and all will be well, and all goods will finally land up in the US, and that's a great market. But I think this is fundamentally changing now.
So I was reading about all these alternative internets, right? And so while there is the military internet, there is also what is known as the trade internet, right? So now you have
Wow.
the quantum trade corridors, you have trade trust nets, you have logistics nets, etc. Because like you said, Samiran, how do you move goods? So there's a whole thing on authenticating supply chains, looking at movement of goods, things like that. So there's a whole bit over there. There's also contracts, settlement of contracts. How do you validate documents? Because the more routes you create, the more newness comes into place. You've got to do all of that. And then you've got to ensure that all of this must not be compatible with the internet, at least the internet as we know it, because you will now otherwise have people hacking into it and figuring it out, right? So it's quite bizarre because now we are creating mini internets for various things. So there's a mini internet for military and war, there's a mini internet for trade and whatever. Then I think we'll have a mini internet even for the creator economy soon. At this rate, the way we are going, everything will become the internet getting fragmented, and then all of them being incompatible with each other and being played as incompatible with each other so that you can't access them because the objectives for each one is different. Correct? So your trade internet has very different objectives from military internet, has very different objectives from creator internet. And so that's going to create so much more complication for people. And I think that's going to be a fascinating thing to look out for.
So I think one of the things to really watch out for is the interplay of geopolitics with how economies and technologies move. So again something, the Burkina Faso, there's a tiny country in Africa. So apparently India and Russia have kind of helped them sort out their debt, some $10 billion of debt. So now, they are giving you access to minerals and all of that. And I think it's something similar happened with Rwanda, Nigeria, and China's doing the same thing across the world. And we during the Cold War, we kind of had two blocks, and then we slowly moved to a situation where there was the kind of a unipolar world where America was the biggest world. And all of a sudden now we are seeing it is actually not even bipolar, it's becoming multipolar because everybody is doing their own thing and everybody's doing everything for their own specific interest. So so it's very interesting to see how geopolitics kind of plays into technology and all of this. Like the fact that the Americans legislated to not allow NVIDIA chips, the H100s, to come to China, and the Chinese went and built other chips. So, and the NVIDIA lost 50% of their market, and the Chinese got better, chips they could live with. Let's not say better chips. And now they are on their way. And I'm sure India maybe it'll come in another 5-7 years, but that will happen here also.
And by the way, on that, yesterday has allowed NVIDIA chips to go to China. Yeah, it's just I read it in NYT. This is the first time so it's like it's are amazing. The whole point is that he has led. I don't know whether it's good or bad, but like you mentioned, multipolar, multiple relationship, multiple trade routes are happening. It may be good, like Canada came separately to Europe and create new relationship. Mexico trying something. So India is with Russia. So I don't know. Maybe it is good, right? There has to be a kind of a fallback, and probably everyone is creating one. Thanks to
Yeah, I think it's just you're seeing shifts in global power thanks to him. That's the only thing I can thank him for.
Yeah.
You're suddenly seeing other powers emerge. You're suddenly saying, hey, is America the greatest peace, followed by Europe? What is happening over there? Which other powers are likely to come in? It's just opening up a whole world
I think
of
it's just like you have
opportunities.
just taken a big piece of Lego and you have built that Millennium Falcon. Now you've just broken it up and say, let me see what else I can build with it. Start from scratch. Now it's just going wherever. So, good things come out of it, but maybe good things will come out for everyone, but yeah, who knows? We just definitely change the world order single-handedly.
So probably on that note, we will move to the last aspect we wanted to talk about, right? The disruptions in war and trade and disruptions in creator space. We belong to the space, so we need to comment on the space. I'll start with something. I don't know whether it will become a reality, but the way AI is disrupting creator space, right? And one classic example is Tilly Norwood. I don't know whether you guys have seen Tilly Norwood. Tilly Norwood is a actress created by AI. Okay, and you have to check out her Instagram feed, her website. It is, I mean, you cannot distinguish that it's not a real human being sitting there. Tilly Norwood. Okay, she was created by a design company called, I think I forget the name, but it is owned by a Dutch actress, right? So a lot of acting inputs and stuff like that has gone into it, and there has been a huge hue and cry in Hollywood about it, that will not work with Tilly Norwood ever, with the AI, this thing. But you must go and check out Tilly Norwood. I mean, you can't, it's impossible, very difficult, let me put it that way. So they do say there is, the AI output has has matured so much, the content, especially image. Text was okay, always there, but the image and audio, that it is now becoming difficult to distinguish with a one look, saying, oh, this is a AI generated content, right? So that is going to be a big challenge to the creator space. And honestly, Tilly Norwood is just they created a actress, so a whole human being. But frankly, AI has been used in past, right? Star Wars Rogue One had they wanted a character from the first, the guy who played Peter Cushing played in New Hope. He played a character in Star Wars, and they wanted the same character in Rogue One, and they actually had an AI generated image of Peter Cushing, because he died in 1984, right? And Rogue One came much later. So it's not it's not as if it has not been used, but Tilly Norwood has just stretched it to that limit, where suddenly it has sparked a debate, right? Whether and actors are actually talking about it, whether they'll even work with a AI person. I don't know what to call it.
But Nilesh, I was just reading up and saying that in the next couple of years, 1 in 3 creator is going to clone himself using AI. And then that AI becomes a 24/7 um, response mechanism for the creator. So they can create content, they can respond to fans, the fan base will go up, all of that. Now, if 1 in 3 creators is going to now create an AI clone, that's going to be crazy. We have I don't know how many million creators already. And now each one of them will have a replica.
See, that is why I try to remain so random. Very difficult to clone. Just totally unpredictable. You can just say anything, anytime.
Totally. I was just in shock. The economy is so large that I mean, Forbes put out their list of the 50 richest creators, right, in 2025 across Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, etc. They earn an estimated $853 million. And this is 18% growth on 24. And then they talk about the fact that the influencer marketing piece, and this is not including all of the millions that they are creating in equity deals and scoring partnerships with snack brands and clothing brands and soda brands and God knows what all. But they're saying that that's going to expand even more. And according to the same piece from Forbes, they're saying that influencer marketing will go to $50 billion. I mean, that's how large this is going to be. And now, if you think about it, they're all mini multinationals only in their own right? And that's why I call them that, because each one of them is going to be large enough to have negotiations at many, many levels, including the platforms on which they are there. So they're going to become very powerful at some point in time in the future. And that, I think, is fascinating. The other interesting piece that I found was the AI voice cloning piece, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you can now clone all kinds of voices, and there is a downside to that, which means that you have a lot of scamming which is going to happen because of AI voice cloning. But if you can voice clone and you have some guys who are tried voice cloning didn't work, so they actually use voiceover artists. But the more you go into native language, just India, look at us. If we just went from pure English to Hindi and Telugu and Tamil, our base just multiplies multifold, right? And so what a lot of guys are doing is, today AI is not able to voice clone in maybe as many native languages in India, but Spanish, French, German, all of those are happening much faster and much better. Therefore your fan base can just go up in
So
large numbers.
So, Sheetal, you took such an interesting point. Voice cloning, we have already done it in our, one of our presentations, because my good friend Sebastian, his English diction is not so great. So he spoke in French, and as you said, maybe not all native languages, it was Spanish, French, English. So, and the whole audio was converted by AI to English with his voice, right? So it's amazing the kind of reach you can. Suddenly he was so comfortable because he had to read through a kind of teleprompter, couldn't speak English that fluently, and suddenly he just gave a fluent speech in French and it was fluently translated. Oh, wow, that was amazing.
Yeah, and that just changes the creator economy. So suddenly you can
Yeah.
go from one country or one language to multilinguality, and then imagine the kind of reach you can get to instantaneously. That's what's fascinating for me. I mean, there are
I
so
think
many
I
creators who are doing that.
I hope Hindi comes soon, so that we can very quickly move to Hindi.
My God, that Hindi. I'm telling you, in India also, we were trying something with the book, and we went to this person, and they have 44 languages they can translate it. There was Greek and Latvian and all. There's no Hindi language. I mean, they had
Wow.
all kinds of things. So on this point of creators, I don't know. I mean, maybe Sheetal knows this, but Nilesh, have you heard of Farah and her cook Dilip?
I have not seen, but I have heard, because the shorts keep coming in YouTube.
Yeah, that is just also tells me what you are looking at these days. But the point is, so this guy is, I mean, so you have to admire Farah for her she very openly says that she's earning much more on YouTube than she ever earned in terms of per unit, So,
Wow.
there is Dilip washing dishes, and then there is Vim, then there's Dilip cooking, and there is some masala. And so she goes to drop Dilip to the airport, and all of that is the thing. And now other stars are competing for Dilip, okay? So to the point where Sheetal said, now cloning can come into this. Like they can have multiple Dilips now floating around. But
It's like it's like is it becoming like Woodhouse, that Anatole the cook from who is
but
required
to her. I mean, and so he is traveling, and it's like it's like a literally like a spin-off. So the lives and times of Dilip has become another story. And the first time I saw it, I said, "Wow, man, this is like crazy." But and to the other point of this, so while it could be seen as being intrusive and very pervasive, but we spoke to the director of Humans in the Loop, and one of the things he mentioned, he wanted to do something in the fantasy genre. So he said that one of the things that AI has helped is that now I am not completely in awe of the cost of CGI. I'm not thinking industrial light and magic and all of that. Reasonable amount of fantasy, reasonable amount of effects and all. I can manage cost of production, availability of resources, and all of that. So, to that point, that access has become a much easier. And the way in every market and industry, you find, because now anyone can become a creator, everybody's becoming a creator. So now you're going to have a huge flood of supply, and I think somewhere the market forces will balance themselves out. And I'm assuming 90% or 95%, like in the startup world and all, they will not make money. They will get weaned out, and the rest, there will be some people who will make money, because everybody will not make money. So, I mean, I guess there is a good thing. Like I always look at it as Indian Idol. I mean, I never knew there were so many singers in India till Indian Idol came, and every year 2 or 3 people are able to build careers. So to that extent, I kind of always look at it as a positive thing that, maybe there'll be creators out there who really do well and it's a way of making a livelihood. But I don't think it will be something that everyone will make money. And, it'll be like a society-wide phenomenon to that extent.
Yeah, I mean, this is one space which I think we just need to watch out for what all is going to happen, because there's all kinds of technology being used. I mean, the kind of video technology that you see now, you and I could create amazing videos, which we never thought. We always thought we needed production and whatever. Not just that, even simple things like our own covers and things like that.
Yes.
Right?
Even the making artwork and all has become so much, it just, one of the big issues we used to have is consistency prompt by prompt, like at each prompt you lose the previous. But now, it's the newer tools are able to maintain consistency across. I'm seeing much lesser spelling mistakes and all. I mean, I'm not a big advanced user, but there is stuff that's improving. And what we have also realized is that you have to keep changing the tool every 3 months. That, every 3 months somebody releases another patch which is better, and then you kind of got to keep shifting around.
The only thing that I'm really fascinated about is to say that if each of these creators becomes so large, and they're now not just restricted to like an Instagram or a TikTok or a YouTube, right? There are now deals happening with Amazon. There's deals happening with Netflix. I'm just fascinated to see which platforms will now start emerging as the trusted platforms for fans and users to want to connect with their creators. And that, I think, is going to be the next space, which becomes the best media area for them to connect. Who's going to take what space, right? Because suddenly you're seeing this whole crossover happening. You're seeing Amazon Prime doing MX Player, which is shorter videos, which is competing with YouTube. You're seeing Netflix getting into other things. You're seeing all kinds of crossovers happening, and that expands the zone of play for creators, but it's also going to create so much competitiveness. It's going to be quite fun to watch out in that space.
I mean, just the launch of Stranger Things season 5 crashed Netflix. So, I mean, can you imagine with that much content coming in? I mean, again, like we have also discovered that, there are very small niche platforms which are local, regional, or national, which, do very well. So, yeah, I mean, I think it will be a process of discovery and just, people will figure it out.
Just on that note of Stranger Things, I read a very interesting article about it. Right. So we were talking of technology disrupting creator space, AI, and Stranger Things actually is one of the, I won't say first, but one of the first content that was born out of the prompt, if you like that, you will like this. Literally, the Stranger Things story is a mishmash of stuff that people like, and algorithm decided that this is something to be created. It is one of the first ones which Netflix used a lot. Correct. I mean, you could see that, the content in India was a certain kind content. For every country, they were using algorithms. We talked about it in one of our podcasts, I think, that no one is reviewing screen plays and all, right? They just put it into an algorithm. So Stranger Things is something that was born out of, the AI algorithmic selection kind of.
And there goes our choice out of the window, because we are now going to be only watching what the algorithm thinks.
Nilesh is trying to fool the algorithm by watching Dilip. Now they say, oh, now what will Nilesh watch?
So on that note, I think this has been fun to do as a wrap up for 25. I think 3 big things that happened, 2 very serious, 1 not so serious shift that is coming in the world. And that's going to take us into a better space with 2026. I hope 2026 sees less wars, sees less chaos, sees a lot of other less things which we don't want in our
Maybe
lives.
less creators also.
Maybe less creators also. Correct. And we wish all of you a very, very happy 2026 and look forward to seeing you in the new year.
Yes, and in case you all missed it, we are very color coordinated.
Colors of the season, as they say.
Wish you all a very, very happy new year.
So wish all of you a great end to 2025, and hopefully 2026 will be much, much better.